All right, everybody, welcome into Sports and Money. I am Benjamin Parker. Thank you so much for joining us. We are very excited. We have a mock draft first round here tonight. I've got three guys with us who study football a lot on different levels, from college to fantasy to NFL. But we are going to go all the way through the first round tonight. I'm going to introduce everybody here in just a second, but we are so pleased to have you on board and watching this. And we are not necessarily trying to predict what the NFL teams are going to do. There's a ton of mock drafts out there that do that, but tonight we are trying to think our way through the draft as if we were the general manager ourselves, and we are trying to make a good decision based on what we think would help that team for tonight. So that's the parameters. We'll explain a little bit of our thinking. It will kind of be an open war room, so to speak. You'll get a little glimpse into what we might be thinking about, and it may or may not be what an NFL team is thinking about, but we are going to have some fun tonight, and we're going to take it seriously all at the same time. So let me introduce them in order in which they'll be picking at the start of the draft. Jordan Schultz will have the number one pick in just a minute. Jordan, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for hosting this. Excited.
Jordan is on a podcast with me called In the Flat. We do it with Tony Keel once a week, and it's a college football podcast. Jordan, we'll give out your Twitter handle in a second, but we're glad to have you on board, and we'll look forward to your pick in just a minute, okay?
Awesome. Thank you.
I think next up will be Simon Short from the Simon Short podcast. Simon, how you doing tonight, man?
What's up, Ben? I'm excited. I'm jacked up. I'm ready to go.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Simon does a ton of work on the Steelers, but also writes for Phantom Sports, and so ends up covering a lot of different NFL angles. And so Simon will hand out your Twitter handle at the end. Also, for anybody who can't see it, I've got their names and their Twitter handles and where you can find them at as well. You can see it on the board as well. Simon, any thoughts before we get started tonight, man?
I'm going to try to play some mind games. We'll see, but I think Ronan is beating us in that department by hiding his face, so I don't know what's going on over there.
Ominous. Never know what to expect.
And here we have Ronan Deep Throat Summers. Ronan, how are you tonight, man?
I'm doing fantastic. I could do without the insults right away, but
I thought there were compliments. I hear a lot of respect coming through, to be honest.
You know what? I'm just glad to be here.
Ronan, we're glad to have you on board. I've done a little bit of work with Ronan already as well. He's got a podcast that he does as well. I'm going to get mixed up on it, Ronan, but it's the Iron Grid. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. And
he also writes for Phantom Sports as well. So we'll tell you more about that at the end of the draft. But Ronan, any thoughts before we hit it up tonight, man?
Like Simon said, I'm ready to play some mind games, pick some steals.
All right. Well, sounds great. Thank you all so much for being with us. We're going to cover every team that has a first-round pick, and, of course, some of them don't, including Ronan's Rams do not have a first-round pick in this year's draft, at least as of right now. But we'll cover every team that has a first-round pick tonight. All right. So we're going to get started. Jordan is on the board first with the Jaguars. We've got our big board up here tonight showing all the picks. I will try to keep up with them as best I can. Jordan, take it away, man.
This was difficult. Be a little bit unorthodox here. Well, let's make it easy. I'm going to draft Aiden Hutchinson, edge from Michigan.
Jordan, I like it. Well, I'm writing the name down. Go ahead and give the audience a little bit of an insight as to why or just why this might benefit the Jaguars. Aiden Hutchinson.
They needed a new edge rusher, and I think Aiden Hutchinson's going to fill that spot for the Jaguars. He had a great combine. He just looks like he's ready for the NFL, kind of like a Joey or Nick Bosa kind of athlete. So it's kind of how I picked it. And there's not a lot of other choices for the number one pick overall.
And we're seeing a ton of mocks. Matter of fact, I do want to ask this real quick. In the past, say, 2 weeks, have any of y'all seen a mock that didn't have Aiden Hutchinson here to the Jaguars? In the past 2 weeks, anybody?
Yeah. I've seen
I think there's still some Evan Neal out there.
Evan Neal.
Okay.
A lot.
Okay, still a little bit
with
of that. Okay, but for the most part, it's been overwhelming Hutchinson. Okay. All right, so no surprises there at the top. Jordan, I appreciate it. Simon, you're up next, number 2 for the Lions. What we got?
So I referenced the fan base. Shout out Muhammad Mehdi to make this pick for the sad Lions. Tried to trade it a little bit, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to overthink it. I'm going to take the guy that was first on everyone's boards for 2 years straight. I'm going to take Kayvon Thibodeau, edge rusher from Oregon. The Detroit Lions, if you watch, they have a pretty good secondary. Their defensive backs can make some plays, but my God, they have to run around for 6 or 7 seconds and try to hold on every single time. So let's get some pass rush. Kayvon Thibodeau is the pick.
All right. To me, this is fascinating. 2 edge rushers off the board right off the top. If we were to dial it back a month, this is what a lot of the mocks were showing, is that these 2 top edge rushers were going to go quick. And now we spent the past month in smoke screen season, where you really don't know what to believe because everybody's bragging about a player they aren't even going to draft. So it's very confusing knowing what to believe. Sometimes you just have to go with what you believe and move on that. So the Lions have Kayvon Thibodeau, and certainly something that we have seen before as well. All right, Simon, appreciate it. I am up, and I'm going to be honest. I have not done a ton of homework on this team. The Houston Texans are up, so I'm going to put this open for discussion, and we'll figure it out from here. I've got the Houston Texans. They actually have 2 picks. They've got another pick here at 13. This is not one of the teams I originally had. We were going to have a couple other people join us, and they just couldn't make it, unfortunately. So I am curious. I've got my big board up, and I know objectively who I would pick, but any feeling of what Houston ought to do here before I actually make my pick? Anybody want to jump in on that?
To me, the top 2, well, maybe not the top 2, but you've got when you're picking this early in the draft, you want to typically get a quarterback, a guy to protect your quarterback, a guy to rush the quarterback, and the best quarterback rushers are off the board. There's not a great quarterback on the board. I see a lot of offensive line go here to Houston in mock drafts, and in my personal opinion, you can never go wrong taking a good offensive line prospect. So I'd go in that direction, and I think I have a feeling about who you're thinking about.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, maybe someday you will know when we're all famous and rich, and you're all paying to hear our opinions. But me and Simon do a ton of work on the offensive line. We just attract to it. So we've discussed a lot of offensive linemen. Jordan, any opinion here for the Texans before I kick out and make my pick?
I think Simon's right on the head right there. The offensive lineman.
All right. And that's where I'm leaning. Ronan, any objections?
Man, they need any and everything. So offensive line is a good place to start.
All right, well, let's do it. That's going to answer all of my questions for the Texans specifically. I'm going to take Ikem Ekwonu, and if I'm mispronouncing it, I apologize. Coming out of NC State. You can really put this guy anywhere, but I think left tackle is more in demand there in the NFL. Tackle period, but especially left tackle. So Ikem Ekwonu, he's very explosive. He's very strong. He's very fast. This guy on the field, anyway, maybe not 40 time, but on the field, this guy plays as fast as some tight ends play at the NFL level. Some of the blocking tight ends, he's very fast. Not only that, though, he actually blocks. His ability to actually get to his man, whether it's in pass protection or in run blocking, he actually gets to the man and sticks to the man. Maybe the best blocking offensive lineman here in the draft. He is tremendous. His growth from his previous year at NC State to his last year at NC State was phenomenal. So I personally love Ikem Ekwonu. He's one of my top probably 2 or 3 prospects on the entire board. So from the committee's recommendation of the Texans getting an offensive lineman and my loving of Ikem Ekwonu, it will be Ekwonu for the Texans, number 3. All right, Ronan. The Jets at number 4, another team that needs a ton of help. They've also got a pick at number 10, so they've got a lot to work with here. Ronan, take it away, man.
Robert Saleh, I'm a Rams fan, so we had to go against his defenses quite frequently. and I respect the heck out of him. I think he's a great defensive coordinator. I don't know head coach, we'll see how that plays out, but I think he's probably going to go defense with this first pick. They kind of got their offensive line sorted out. I wanted to go Neal here. I really did originally. But after doing some soul searching, I'm going to go with Travon Walker. He's big, he's powerful, he's long, he's everything you want in an edge rusher. He has versatility, he's quick. I think he will be he can hit his ceiling with Bob Saleh.
I like it, man. Walker's the guy. He's one of the guys who I think has zipped his way up the board the most over the past 3 or 4 weeks, right? I mean, maybe there's another guy that's done as much, but I don't think anybody's helped himself as much as Walker has. We were kind of seeing him mocked in the middle of the first round. So, Ronan, I like it. That's where I'm seeing a lot of the mocks lately, is that Walker has worked himself into the top 5. Good pick there for the Jets. Like the talent. Jordan, back to you for the New York Giants, who is another team. This is going to be a common theme here. Another team who could use a lot of help all over the place. And, of course, they've got 2 picks, number 5 and number 7. Jordan, what you got at number 5?
See, you could say they need a quarterback. You can say they need a lot of things, like you said, Ben. But the easiest thing, they need someone that can protect that quarterback. And Evan Nall just is really is a versatile player, can play tackle, has played guard, all around just one of those offensive linemen that could excel in the NFL and, maybe not make a huge difference right away for the Giants, but can protect, Josh Daniels early.
Evan Neal is another guy that I'm in love with. To me, and I'm probably jabbering too much, but I get really excited about Evan Neal too. His pass blocking is pretty unique. You don't see many guys who can do what he can do at left tackle. So the Giants get the much needed help. Again, this is something we've seen some of as well in the mock drafts. Evan Neal, number 5 to the Giants. All right, my turn to the Panthers. This is one I already know what I'm going to do here. And it's not so much because I think this is the right move for the franchise necessarily. It's just because of the desperation that I feel coming out of Carolina right now. It's not a secret that Matt Rule is fighting to keep his job there in Carolina. And so we're going to go with we're going to make some people sick here, but we're going to do it anyway. Malik Willis, quarterback out of Liberty. If I were the Panthers, I don't know that I would do this. But, again, this is where the human factor starts to come in. Job security, whether it's for a general manager or for the coach, either one. Bringing Malik Willis in is instantly going to add a ton of excitement to the Carolina fan base. And the upside is there. Very inconsistent. Very inconsistent. We've seen interceptions in clusters. We've seen poor decision-making. But he's got the cannon arm. He's got the incredibly fast leg. And maybe, just maybe, Matt Rule can talk to the owner and talk to the general manager and get himself another 2 years out of this if he brings in Malik Willis. So that's what we're going with. Malik Willis, number 6 to the Panthers. And any comments before we move on? Simon?
So all you've done for me personally as a Steeler fan and someone who likes to think that they know how to talk about the Steelers, you just saved me a lot of headache from having to do anything. The Steelers are going to have to give up a lot to get to pick 4 or 5 to take Malik Willis. And that's actually what I did in my latest mock draft for Phantom Sports. And fans in the Facebook groups, which you guys know can be a little, we'll just say mean. They didn't hate it. Actually, they didn't love it. It's not something that they want, but I think everyone kind of sees and trusts in the Steelers franchise that if they move up to get him, that'll be a good thing. So I think maybe Panthers fans will feel the same way, but Panther fans probably don't have as much faith in Matt Rule and company as the Steeler fans do in Tomlin and Colbert. So we'll see.
And in all honesty, I'm not sure this is the best move for Carolina in the long term. This is a short term, save my job kind of a move. There's no question about it. I personally would much rather see Malik Willis end up at a stable franchise like a Pittsburgh or like a New England or like a Seattle in most years, someplace that's pretty established and they can develop in them, and they've already got some talent around him, which Seattle doesn't at the moment. But you get the point that I'm trying to make. I would rather see him be behind a good offensive line with a couple of good wide receivers and a halfway decent running back, and that's not exactly what he would be walking into here. But this is me kind of reaching out here in desperation, right? So, Jordan, back to you at number 7 for the New York Giants, man. Hit us up.
Now switching, from offensive gears for the Giants, they also, their defense is lacking in a lot. Like we talked about, they need a whole revamp of that team to just make something of it as of right now. So my pick is Kyle Hamilton, safety from Notre Dame. I got hurt halfway through the season this year, but the games before that, he's just electric. He makes those big plays. His sideline to sideline vision and speed is crazy. He's an all-around athlete that can really turn around a defense. Captain, that leader that I think that the Giants actually need someone to take control of that defense that's a player and be like, we need to do this and that. So
I love this. Kyle Hamilton is another one of my guys that's flat out in the top 5. And Jordan's an expert on this because he's a Notre Dame fan. He watches every single game and some of them twice. So Jordan has seen Kyle Hamilton come up all the way through the system and blossom into the stud that he is today. So that's
I was
Jordan.
Prepared to trade up to 9 from 11 for the Commanders because I know Ronan loves Kyle Hamilton too. So I know he was sitting there on Ronan's board at 10. I was going to bring the house to you, Ben, at Seattle for number 9.
This is one of the things. This is one of the things where the general managers and the coaches spend an entire offseason trying to hide what they think.
Mm-hmm.
And here, I think it's become evident that all 4 of us actually love Kyle Hamilton. A lot of NFL general managers have to be thinking the same thing, even though they're not going to quite come out and say that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, the Falcons at number 8. Falcons at number 8. Here's my dilemma. This is where I'll go ahead and let you into my thinking. If this was a real draft, I wouldn't do it. But since we're mocking, this is where it starts to get interesting. If I'm the Falcons, I really want a wide receiver, to be honest. And there's a lot of wide receivers I like. I really don't want to pick up at number 8, though. So I want to toss it out really quickly here to each one of you. If the answer is just flat no, tell me flat no, and we will move on. I'll make a pick. Is any teams at all interested in moving up to number 8 in a trade for the Falcons? Because honestly, the Falcons if I'm the Falcons, I would love to just trade down, get a couple more picks, still end up with a good wide receiver at say 16 or 18 or 20. Simon, yes, no interest?
Oh.
None from Simon. Jordan, what about you?
No, I'm good.
No interest there. You're probably all thinking the same thing as I am. Why would I draft up to 8, or why would I trade up to 8 when I can get what I want at 15 or 16, right? Rona, what about you, man? Any interest?
I don't believe so.
All right, that's fine, and that's what I was thinking. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and make the move for a wide receiver here. I'm not totally sure that I wanted to draft a wide receiver right here. But let's go with Drake London out of USC. I think some people love him and some people don't. I don't think he's a guarantee, but I do like what Drake London puts out there. So for the Falcons, Drake London at number 8. He's a big physical guy, very physical. There are some questions about his speed, but I think if it's in the right system, who knows if Atlanta's the right system or not, but I think if he's in the right system, he could have a good NFL career. I think to me, this is where we start to see a divide. I don't necessarily have Drake London projected as an NFL star, but I do think he could have a good long NFL career and maybe pick up a couple of all-pros along the way, depending on what else they do there in Atlanta. All right, so that's the Falcons at 8. Seahawks at number 9. I've got a couple of ideas, but the Seahawks need a lot. So, Simon, any suggestions? I'll put it open to committee here.
Oh man, let me pull up because Ronan and I just did a podcast on the NFC West. What did
were
we
pretty mean
say?
about that.
We were really mean to the Seahawks. Not as
it was
mean as
pretty
Ben and I
brutal.
were to the Chargers 2 weeks ago, though. But let's
I
see. What did
listened
we
to
say?
that podcast today. Yeah, there were not a lot of kind things said about the Seahawks.
No, there wasn't. So let's see. Here are the positions I had written down for the Seahawks. This one, I don't think you're going to have to worry about this pick at this point. But quarterback is obviously a hole. Left tackle is a hole. Corner and linebacker. Linebacker is not, as big since they have Jordan Brooks there. So I'd say left tackle or corner, and there are definitely some guys on the board that you could get for either of those spots.
I'm not even going to ask because all three of you did want to trade up the last time. Thank you, Simon. I appreciate it. So I'm not going to ask. To me personally, and this is where open war room comes in, introducing our thinking. If I'm the Seahawks, there's a lot of guys I like in the draft. I would love to just kind of move on back to 15 or 18 and pick up an extra pick, even if it's just an extra fourth rounder, and I still get the guy I like. But once you get to number 7 and 8, I don't think there's as many standout guys as there are, say, at number 3 or number 2, number 4. And so that's kind of my dilemma there for Seattle. There's a lot of guys I like. Let's settle in here and go with Ahmad Gardner at cornerback. I love Ahmad Gardner. He is definitely one of my top 5 in the draft altogether. He's got very long arms, which may or may not have been made too much of in this year's draft, the cornerbacks. But Gardner, coming out of Cincinnati, has the potential, I'll stress that, has the potential to be a shutdown corner in the NFL. And there's not a lot of those. We see a lot of guys who can kind of challenge, but Gardner's actually got the potential to be the guy that you just never throw in his direction at all. You don't even challenge him. So love Ahmad Gardner. We're going to take him at Seattle for number 9. Ronan?
And real quick.
Sorry, yeah, shoot.
Because you mentioned like this spot in the draft, this 7, 8, 9 is not really a great spot, especially the way our board is falling right now.
Right.
We know somebody always falls, right? And right now there's lots of
Yes.
talk of guys like Kayvon Thibodeau or Kyle Hamilton, those guys potentially falling. If this is the NFL draft in 3 weeks, there's a good chance a guy like that is on the board at 9. Do you still think about trading back at that point, or are you running the card up? Or for anybody here, are you running the card up to get one of those guys that we just took in the top 5?
If I'm Seattle or Atlanta, this is me personally, Jordan and Ronnie, y'all can chime in if you want. If I'm Atlanta or Seattle, as much as I love Gardner, I'm tempted to still trade back if the trade is sweet enough. So it wouldn't just be for a fourth rounder at that point. Somebody would have to offer me a late first or a second rounder. If somebody did that because they loved Gardner so much, I would be kind of tempted to jump on that. Because in my head, at least, I'm thinking I get 2 starters instead of 1. And maybe neither one of them is as good as Gardner, but that's kind of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I love Gardner. I have no problem settling in here for Ahmad Gardner. It just none at all. So great question, Simon. Anything else from anybody on this area here? All right. Jets, number 10. They've already picked Walker from Georgia at number 4. Ronan, you're up. Take it away, man.
I will not lie to you. You broke my heart taking Gardner right there. Was banking on that pretty hard. Whenever you asked about trading down with that Falcons pick, I almost said yeah with the Jets. I was like, no,
I know I offered,
only picks away. So with that being said, Stingley looks like a very, very, very viable option. But I don't think that he's where Gardner is, at least yet. So I'm going to go ahead and take Garrett Wilson. A lot of people have him wide receiver 1.
Yep.
I'm not big on college football, so I didn't watch a ton of his stuff. He had an amazing combine, though. Let's see. I'm just reading some anecdotes. He made 27 catches for 371 yards and 6 touchdowns over his last 3 games. So Zach Wilson needs a true number 1, and Garrett Wilson looks like he could be that guy.
I like the pick, and you're right. A ton of people have Garrett Wilson at number 1 for wide receiver. So there for the Jets. And Ronan, if you don't mind, introduce me to the thinking. If you're the Jets general manager, we know you're looking at wide receiver. Would you fish around for some trades? How strongly do you look at DK Metcalf in real life? Maybe forget our mock, but if you're the Jets in real life, how strong are you interested in DK Metcalf if he's even available, and considering the price tag that would come with him?
Well, if I'm the Jets, I'm calling Seattle and letting them know that whatever they want for DK, they'll do. I'd give up the 4 and 10 pick if I'm getting a second DK and a second back. Would you guys take that?
I would be tempted. Simon, Jordan, what do y'all think?
I think it's too early in DK's career to give away those picks so early right now. If it was 2 years down the line and he's still producing and still doing the things he's doing now, then yeah. But it's just too early in my eyes.
Yeah, I'm on the flip side. I'm on the flip side where after just seeing what happened with Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, that arguably 2 of the best 3 wide receivers in the NFL get traded for picks because their incumbent teams didn't want to pay them the big money anymore. I'm thinking if Kansas City and Green Bay, 2 of the top best teams in the league, say, you know what, we can downgrade the receiver a bit to save $20 to $25 million. Why am I thinking I should spend a lot of money for DK Metcalf, who is great, deserving of the money, and I think even worth the draft picks just from a player on field standpoint. But when it comes to team building and roster building, I'd rather save those picks and money for players you can't replace: offensive linemen, edge rushers, quarterbacks. Wide receiver, we're seeing in this draft now, these guys are going to start coming off the board soon. There's 5 or 6 Pro Bowl level receivers in every draft at this point. So I'm going to save my picks. And Ronan and I even had this conversation the other day, but wide receiver, I can always draft one.
I'll say this, and Ronan, I'll kick it back to you in just a second and talk about the Jets, because I think it's fascinating. If I were taking over the Jets right now, I would strongly consider the Metcalf deal, only because I've already got a young quarterback in year 2 who needs a lot of help on the offensive line. They have some wide receivers, but nobody who really challenges the defense. I would be very interested in Metcalf. Maybe not. I might not be interested in giving up both number 1s, but maybe a 1 from this year and a 1 from next year. Maybe I might consider it.
It was definitely one thing exaggeration.
Yeah. Well, one thing, yeah, I know, Ronan, you were basically just making the point that you were interested in Metcalf. But one reason I would do that, though, is because the Jets have screwed everything up for the past 5 seasons. It's not like they built a pretty decent roster and then dropped the young quarterback right in the middle of it, right? I mean, they got a kind of a lousy offense and have had for now, 3, 4, 5 seasons, going back all the way to the Todd Bowles era. And then the next coach after that, I can't remember, Adam Gase after that. So you're kind of trying to make up for some ground here if you go after the Metcalf deal. That's why I would at least be interested. Ronan, you want to wrap it up on the Jets?
Yeah, the Jets, they've been regime-based. How many regimes has there been in the past 2 decades? And how many of them have made big swings? You need to get the ball rolling somehow. Yeah, the Rams did it. The Rams weren't jacked. Whenever they were making moves for Peters and Talib, they weren't up there yet. In New York, it's attractive for stars, maybe not tax-wise, but it's New York. They need to do something, because what they have been doing clearly hasn't been working.
Yeah, so I guess the question for me and you, Ronan, would be how much would we have to give up to get Metcalf? So, all right, Ronan, thank you very much, man. Simon, the Commanders, number 11, what you got?
Ben, I've been standing at the podium for the last 10 minutes. I have the card ready. For the Washington Commanders, once again, I went to the fans. Shout out to Zach. They need to protect Commander Carson. And they've neglected their offensive line over the last couple of years. I like what they did with Sam Qasimi from Texas last year. But between Trent Williams leaving a couple years ago and Brandon Sheriff leaving this year, they really need to keep adding to that offensive line if they're going to start doing anything again. Charles Cross from Mississippi State, left tackle. That's my pick. Best pass pro offensive lineman in this draft, I think. He's got like 34.5-inch arms or something and like 10 3/4-inch hands. So just physical specimen, 6'5", almost 310, fluid athlete, but just a great pass protector. And that's my guy for the next, 10 to 15 years over there at left tackle. So really excited about that pick.
Man, I like it. I like the picks for the Commanders. And hang on, I am looking at my next team. The Vikings are up on the board. This is actually one of the teams I had originally doing in depth. The latest needs I saw for the Vikings, and this has been a few days ago. So guard, wide receiver, guard/center, wide receiver, linebacker, and defensive lineman. Basically every position on defense, and then a couple of iffy positions there on offense. My debate here with the Vikings is, do I address the brutal needs that they have on defense because they're all over the place, or do I go with a player that I really like here on offense? And I think I'm going to settle in for the player that I really like. I hate drafting players based on need if I'm not 100% locked in on them. So this is early. Probably nobody else is going to do this, but I just really like this guy. I really like this guy, and I think the Vikings in the long term will be better off for it. So we are going to go with Tyler Lindenbaum, center from Iowa. Really, really love Lindenbaum. If I could trade back, I would, but I don't think anybody's interested in that. So Tyler Lindenbaum, very efficient, probably one of the best centers to come out of the draft over the past few years, coming from Iowa. And I apologize if I misspelled the name. Tyler Lindenbaum, I'll just do it like that. Tyler Lindenbaum from Iowa, center. Excellent, very efficient, very proficient, very technique is sound, strong up the middle. Don't usually see centers this good, and that's why I'm drafting them a good bit higher than maybe a lot of the mocks have him. But right there, the Vikings, number 12. Number 13, we're back to the Texans again. They already picked out Ikeme Kwanu. For the Texans, we said left tackle and CB and linebacker for the Texans. Is that right? Simon, were you the one who called that out for Houston?
That was for Seattle.
That was the other team. All right, Hang on. For Houston, give me 1 second. We're going to skip out here on a couple of guys.
They just re-signed Cooks, or gave Cooks an extension, whichever one he was.
Right, they tacked on the 2-year extension.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right, tell you what we're going to do, and I'm sorry for keeping our audience hanging on with bated breath here. I'm trying to run the draft and do my teams up both at the same time. So we're not going quarterback. We're not going tackle at this point. We considered guard, but I don't think I'm going to do that. We're definitely not doing running back. We're not doing the edge at this point, or safety. Basically, it's coming down to linebacker or wide receiver if I'm Houston. There's some cornerbacks I like okay, but not enough to be drafting right here. So I think for Houston, we're going to go ahead and add on Jamison Williams, wide receiver from Alabama. Not totally sure how ready he'll be at the start of the season. Even if he's healthy, he may not be up to full speed. But Jamison Williams has the potential to be the best receiver in this draft class. Again, that's not a lot, but Jamison Williams certainly has the speed to work out of the slot, and he's big enough to compete against some of the bigger cornerbacks as well. So that's what we're going to do. Jamison Williams right there for the Houston Texans at number 13. Ronan, Ravens. I'm interested, man.
All right. So this is tempting. I want to go edge, but Derek Stingley looks really, really, really nice at 14. But I think edge is more of a position of need, so I'm going to go Jermaine Johnson out of Florida State. Let's see. Let me pull up my notes on him. He's big. He's good at getting the quarterback. Jeez. Time's up, block, shed to tackle. He's got it all. I don't do any college scouting, but I do think he's a good prospect. He had a good combine. Didn't have anything flashy, I don't believe. I think he has this is me spitballing because I don't have his 40 time right in front of me, but he runs like a sub 4.75, yeah.
I got you. I'll find it.
Yeah, he's up there. Yeah.
But I like Jermaine Johnson there. I think the Ravens, Calais Campbell is still out on the market. Edge is a question mark.
4.58 on his 40.
Yeah. He's quick.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. And Johnson's a guy, certainly, we've seen him go up and down the draft board, I think. I don't think he was in the top 10 when the offseason started, but the offseason has been kind to him. And then it seemed like he kind of settled back down here to the teens about where we're drafting him now. So the Ravens pick him up. I think it's an excellent pick for the Ravens. Certainly kind of goes into their wheelhouse of what they like to do. All right, Ravens, Jermaine Johnson, edge out of Florida State. Here's where we get to, I think, the crazy part of the draft, if you want to call it that. The Eagles already had 3 picks. The Saints and the Eagles did what, to me, was a kind of a weird trade. But we'll dive into more to that in a second. But, Simon, you're up with the Eagles at 15, man.
I'm ecstatic. I watched a few Eagles games this year in depth, but I talked to a lot of Eagles fans. Again, shout out Kevin Smick. You watch their defense and you just sense that they don't have enough playmakers. You watch the defense and it was kind of their defensive philosophy where it's just the bend, don't break. But even in that, you still want a guy that you feel can pop at any moment. You definitely didn't have that watching their defense last year. So we've talked around them a lot so far in the first 14 picks. I'm going to pull the trigger. It's going to be Derek Stingley Jr. Even however they want to play him, if they want to switch up their defensive scheme because of a guy like him, or if they still want to go bend, don't break, that's a guy that can at least pop him and make some plays when the team's really going to need it.
Totally agree. I love Stingley. I haven't done enough homework to say, I think if the draft had happened a year ago, Stingley might have been up somewhere in the top 5. I think he kind of fell off just a little bit, but there's no denying his athleticism and his power. It's kind of like all the tools are there. He just maybe hasn't quite capitalized on it yet, but he would be very tempting to pass up if you're an NFL team. So right there at Philadelphia, Simon, we'll be back to you very shortly here for the second Eagles pick. They pick up Derek Stingley for the Eagles. Number 16 of the Saints, Jordan. We haven't heard from you in a few picks, man. So back to you. You're actually going to control the back end of the draft pretty well too. But 16 to the Saints, Jordan. What you got?
So, I mean, the Saints also need a lot. I think there's a couple like big glaring issues, but just like I've been drafting, offensive line's huge. And if you don't want to lose those those players that should be drafted first round, wait for them later when they're not going to be there. So I'm going to pick Trevor Penning, tackle from Northern Iowa. He's, watching his highlights and everything, he doesn't look like he should have been at Northern Iowa. He should have went to a bigger school. Big guy, fast, downhill blocking is great. Just a good all-around offensive tackle that can control that line of scrimmage, especially for the quarterback, whoever it's going to be sitting in the pocket for the Saints.
Is it surprising to anybody that we see somebody like Trevor Penning still, like you said, Jordan, at Northern Iowa in the day and age of transfer portal and NIL, that he didn't get, pushed on somewhere else? Is it surprising to any of you?
No, I think, especially that position, offensive tackle, you can go anywhere. And it's a big enough school that you're still going to get recognition. So I think staying Northern Iowa, staying where you're going to start, you're going to start, was great for him. That's why we're seeing him so high in the first round. He's not a late second round draft pick.
I'm going to ask you guys this, but I don't want you to tell me now because I don't want you guys to play all your cards right now. But if you guys don't mind, maybe we'll save this for the end of the draft, or maybe we'll do a second little video after the draft, maybe call it the after party or something. If you guys don't mind, write down one name right now as we're halfway through the first round that you're surprised is still on the board that you really like. And again, I don't want you guys to tell me because I don't want you. I know some of you. One of you is probably waiting to draft him here the next couple of picks. But just write a name down that you're surprised, like, man, I thought that guy was going to go a lot higher, and here he is, still floating around at pick 17 now. All right, I appreciate it. Maybe we'll come back to that later, either at the end of this video or in the next one. I'm back up. Chargers at number 17. Chargers, and again, Simon alluded to it earlier. We did a podcast with him in which we destroyed the Chargers basically for not being very strong.
Chargers fans.
We apologize profusely. We actually do think the Chargers have a good chance to win the Super Bowl this year, but I raked them over the coals for having a glaring weakness in run defense. So I think I'm going to do what a lot of mocks have suggested and what I like. I think I'm going to pull the trigger on Jordan Davis. But before I do that, again, open thinking. Simon and Ronan, what's the guy that came from the Rams who is now DT at the Chargers?
Sebastian Joseph Day. Mm-hmm.
Sebastian Joseph Day. Let me ask y'all this before I make my pick, because you guys know I'm leaning toward Jordan Davis here anyway. You guys have seen him more than I have. I haven't spent much video on Sebastian Joseph Day. Would he be able to play alongside Jordan Davis, or is it more the idea that he would back up Jordan Davis? Because I don't want to screw up that move if they're not going to link up alongside. Simon, what do you think on that, man?
I think you bring in a Sebastian Joseph Day because as a young guy in a limited role, he showed a lot of flashes, but he's not to the point where you tie yourself to he has to be the guy. Now with the Chargers, I think they can play them next to each other. I see no reason that both those guys can't just be your classic, 3-tech defensive tackles right next to each other. But if it came down to it, I think Jordan Davis would probably beat him out. But the Chargers did a rotation with the interior of that defensive line anyway, so I think it'd be pretty even for everybody involved.
Okay. Ronan, you on the same page as that, man?
Yeah, I'm right there with them. Brandon Staley likes to keep things fresh, and I think adding Jordan Davis would be an insane move to that already insane defensive front.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're weak at linebacker too. There's a couple of guys I like at linebacker, but I don't like them as good as I like Jordan Davis. And again, these are the conversations the NFL teams are having right now, probably as we speak, as we're sitting here doing our mock. A lot of them are probably literally sitting in their offices right now having these conversations about, do we like this guy and can he play alongside who we already have? So, this is why I like this pattern of thinking. So I'm going to go with that. Jordan Davis, defensive tackle. The one thing I don't like about Jordan Davis is probably the same thing everybody doesn't like, is that he may end up only playing 2 out of 3 downs just because of conditioning. And that may not ever change. That just may be a character trait that he can't change. But I think if I'm the Chargers and I'm ready to win a Super Bowl, I'm okay with him just playing 2 downs, 2 out of every 3 downs, or, playing 2 series in a row and maybe sitting out a series or whatever, even if I don't get a chance to swap him out on 3rd down, maybe if once it rotates back around to 1st down, I take him on out to catch a breather. So I'm okay with that. I think it's their biggest weakness right now is stopping the run, and I really like Jordan Davis plugging the running game there at defensive tackle. Simon, back to you. The Eagles have already picked out Derek Stingley, that athlete from LSU. What are we doing now at 18, Simon?
So at 18, I'm going to flip to the offensive side. The Eagles, we know about their wide receiver problem. 2 years in a row now, they've taken a receiver in the 1st round of the draft. 2 years ago with Jalen Reagor going before Justin Jefferson. That obviously didn't work out last year. It looks like it worked pretty well with Devonta Smith. I'll go ahead and give away some state secrets here. I like Chris Olave as a receiver better, and he was my answer to your question a minute ago, who I was surprised was still on the board. I did not think he would be the fourth wide receiver taken in this draft. We had 3 go before him, but I'm also going to go against what I'm saying, and I'm going to make him the 5th receiver because I'm going to take Treylon Burks out of Arkansas. I feel with Devontae Smith being there already as kind of my X that I like, he's a little undersized, but not anything too bad. But Chris Olave is that similar style guy. He's a good route runner. He's like 6 foot, 190, 6'1", 185, something like that. So I want a big receiver. Give me Treylon Burks. He's a guy that he doesn't really do too much deep yet, and I would like him to, but I don't have a very deep throwing accurate quarterback right now anyways with Hurts. So with the Philadelphia offense, give me Treylon Burks, who is 6'2", 225 pounds, fast, tough. I just heard a story. This guy hunts wild boar with a knife. So he's a scary dude. And let's do some wide receiver screens and just bubble screens to him and let him run through some people.
I like it. Treylon Burks is a guy I really like as well. Maybe not the most talented guy out of the wide receiver group, but physical. And like you said, you may not be sending him deep, but on all the other stuff, you can use him on. And they're at Philadelphia. Philadelphia's definitely getting tougher with these 2 picks here. So I like these physical picks here, and I like Treylon Burks a lot, a wide receiver out of Arkansas. So, all right, the Eagles pick Derek Stingley at 15, and in our draft, they pick up Treylon Burks at 18. Yes, sir. Jordan, the Saints are back up. You got Trevor Penning just a couple of picks ago, and they're back in here at number 19. What are we looking at?
Oh, this one. Everybody's taking all the good picks. It's kind of getting hard down the stretch,
Right.
Especially when it's like a 1-round draft.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to switch and go to defense. They, you know what? Let's throw this in there. All right.
Here we go.
We're going with Kenny Pickett.
Oh my gosh.
Quarterback from Pitt. I think they can definitely mold him and put him, just have him sit a year, maybe 2, and have him grow as a quarterback. I definitely think that he could turn out to be maybe the next Drew Brees for them. It's just, you'd have to wait and see for how they use him. I think they definitely can use him more than a lot of other teams right now, just because Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill, Taysom Hill is not a great quarterback that you want heading your team, and I think Kenny Pickett can be that guy that comes in and does it.
Kenny Pickett, a little bit. I don't mean to say he's Hall of Fame good. I'm not trying to say that, but again, this is just comparisons and images that come to mind. He reminds me a little bit when he throws of the way Troy Aikman used to throw. The accuracy was there. Aikman couldn't necessarily just destroy you downfield unless he was tossing a toss-up in the end zone to Michael Irvin. But Aikman was very accurate, very calm in the pocket. Kenny Pickett is a lot the same way to me. Runs a little faster than Aikman ever did, of course. But you see Pickett throwing these little laser darts, anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20 yards all over the field. And he reminds me just when he's throwing a little bit of Troy Aikman just in terms of imagery. Jordan, you surprised me, man. I did not see that coming. Okay, but I like it. Simon, I'm curious to see what you got to say here because I know your thoughts on the quarterbacks, and there's our picture of Andy Reid for everybody who wants it. Simon, I know your general impression of the groups at quarterbacks here, but 2 quarterbacks have already been taken, and your beloved Steelers are sitting here at number 20. So, Simon, curious to see what you got to say, man.
So ironically, this team, the Steelers, is the team I have the hardest time making this pick for, even though this is my team. I know this team in and out. The homework for this was to do it as if we got to be GM for the day. If we walked into the war room and Art Rooney II was there and shook my hand and said, "Guess what, Simon, you get to pick for the Steelers today. What would you do?" Because it's not what the Steelers are going to do. If I were Kevin Colbert, this pick could be 3 different things. I won't even throw the names out and bore you. But here's what I'm going to do. Ben mentioned it. I love offensive line. Give me Zion Johnson of Boston College. Guard, Played right guard and maybe left guard at Boston College. I'm not sure, but played guard in college. The Steelers made a lot of moves in free agency to revamp that offensive line, which was just terrible last year. I think it's already going to be better. They brought in a center, they brought in a guard, but go ahead and bring in another guard in Zion Johnson, put him, Kevin Dotson, and James Daniels in a blender, figure out which of those three go to which interior position. And I think that's going to be a stud group for the next, 8 to 10 years. So I'm going to go Zion Johnson for the Steelers.
I was privileged to be on the Simon Short podcast, I think twice now. Is that right, Simon?
I lost count.
I've lost count. Yeah. Anyway, one of the things we talked about was the Steelers' offensive line. I love this pick. I am curious, if Kenny Pickett had been sitting there, would you have taken him at number 20?
All right. I have Pickett personally as my 5th quarterback out of all 5 of these day 1, day 2 quarterbacks. Okay. So no, I wasn't even thinking quarterback.
And again, we're just thinking out loud, open war room here. If Malik Willis had slid all the way to 20, how tempted are you at number 20?
I'm a little tempted. Tempted. If he slides to 20, and again, for the Steelers, if he's there at 20, I mean, they're running up there in real time. Okay.
All right. And I want to get a quick vote here. How many of you, if you were I say that, how many of you, we kind of already did it. Do y'all understand any scenario, or I don't understand, do y'all like any scenario in which any of these quarterbacks are taken in the top 10 this year? Simon, hate it, love it, understand it?
I mean, I understand it. It's April 8th as we do this. We've talked ourselves as a media, as a football loving community, that 3 or 4 of these guys are going in the first round. And that's just how it's going. Where 2 months ago, it was, do any of these guys deserve to be first rounders? So it's not going to surprise. I'll be more surprised if someone doesn't go in the top 10.
Okay. Ronan, do you like a guy here being drafted in the top 10 for quarterback, or do you hate it? Like, would you just totally avoid it, or would you be tempted?
I would be tempted if, like you said, with the Panthers situation, they need a quarterback. So I think Panthers go quarterback. I think Seattle could. I think Atlanta could. So I think there's a real chance that 2. I don't think 3. I think if Pickett and Willis are gone, I think it's going to be a little bit of a gap. But I wouldn't be surprised if Ian Desmond were to go mid-first, late-first.
Okay. All right. And Jordan, do you hate the idea of drafting one of these quarterbacks in the top 10? Do you love it? Are you just kind of waffling in between? What do you feel?
Kind of in between. I feel like where we are right now in the top 10, like the 10 teams that are drafting, I think I could see it, but I can see that they're also looking at a lot of risks because there's no standout quarterback this year that can take it. I think the 5 that can are all intermixing. It's like there's no true runner, like true outlier that's like the best quarterback this draft. I think any of them, whoever you get, you can mold into what you want, but it'll be kind of shocking to me if one of the top 10 teams does.
Same as well. Same for me. All right. We've got the Patriots now. Is that right? Number 21. And I'm picking for the Patriots. I basically already know what I want to do here, so I'm going to go ahead and pop this. I'm going to grab Trent McDuffie, cornerback, and put him on the Patriots. The Patriots do love their defensive backs anyway in terms of drafting. I think I don't know if they necessarily like McDuffie, but I like McDuffie. I don't know, not necessarily a star, but I think McDuffie stands to be a pretty good starter. So I'm drafting Trent McDuffie for the Patriots. And then the Packers, I'm going to go ahead and draft them a wide receiver, seeing as how they lost or traded away Devontae Adams. I'm going to go ahead and pick them up a wide receiver. I've got, starting to run out, but I'm going to grab Chris Olave. I think they'll be pretty happy to get Chris Olave there in Green Bay. I think Aaron Rodgers will be reasonably happy with that as well. And then for the Cardinals, I'm going to put it up to committee for you guys for the Cardinals. Haven't studied as much of them. I know who's on my big board still left here. Ronan, I'll start with you because we haven't talked to you as much the past few picks. Anybody you like here for the Cardinals, or any needs that you're aware of that the Cardinals really just gotta have right now?
Truthfully, there's not a whole lot of holes. Simon, I can't remember. What were we saying that their needs were?
I mean, like you said, though, there's not anything glaring where you're like, wow, this really has to happen. I think the biggest one is probably edge. They have a couple in-house options that could play in place of Chandler Jones, but no one that you feel necessarily great about. And then just adding another wide receiver to the room. But, Ronan and I pointed out the other day that they have some more in-house options for receiver. And, like you said, Ben, we've gone through really all the first round receivers at this point. So I could see edge here for sure. See if they can develop a guy to take over that Chandler Jones spot.
Jordan, any thoughts on the Cardinals, man?
Not really. I don't know much about the Cardinals.
I don't think Jordan cares about the Cardinals, right, man? Like, I can just tell.
No.
Jordan's laser focused on his own picks. He doesn't care about your picks.
Yeah, now I'm trying to figure out the Chiefs stuff, all right? It's getting tough.
We made him nervous before we started.
Jordan, I'll try to leave you alone because you got 6 picks before you got a double dip on the Kansas City Chiefs here, and definitely all the Chiefs fans are going to be waiting on this. Okay, my favorite guy that's still left on the board, I think, is the guy I'm going to go ahead and take, and it might not even be a need for the Cardinals, but I'm going to bypass that. I'm going to go with the guy I like best at the moment, and that's going to be Devin Lloyd, linebacker out of Utah. Devin Lloyd to the Cardinals. Devin Lloyd is not a huge guy. He's not a big, heavy-set, old-fashioned kind of a linebacker. Very modern kind of a linebacker. Excellent in pass coverage. Not dominant, but good in pass coverage for linebacker. Not dominant against the run, but good against the run, and can get to the quarterback. It's unusual to see a linebacker that can do all 3 of these things and do them pretty well. It's not like he's just barely scraping by, but he does all 3 of these things pretty well. So I really like Devin Lloyd. This feels about right for him, maybe even a little bit higher than this. But Devin Lloyd to the Cardinals, I'm really just picking the best player on the board, to me at the moment anyway, coming out of Utah. Cowboys, Ronan, America's team, man. What are you going to do for America's team as their general manager?
Lyle Collins heading out, that's a tough loss, and you need to replace him ASAP. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and go with Bernhard Raimann. I don't know if I said his name correctly. The tackle out of Central Michigan. I believe he played left tackle in college. He's an athletic freak. I'm sure he would be just fine at right tackle. The Cowboys, they need to shore up that front. What better way to do it than on a big dude on a rookie deal?
I agree. I like this pick for the Cowboys because you're right about losing Collins. And Raimann's a guy who I'm really interested to see. A lot of people have been very quiet on him, even though he's been pretty high on draft boards. Not a lot that's been said about him as opposed to what's being said about a lot of other players on the boards. So Raimann's a guy I'm really interested to see who grabs him, who's really going to jump on board here. But I love that pick for the Cowboys. I like that a lot right there. So, Ronan, thank you. Back to the Bills. The Bills are another team. Jordan, I will leave you alone. I'll hit Simon and Ronan up. I know who's on my big board. Ronan, any opinion on what the Bills should do, just as far as in terms of need-based?
Let's see. Okay. I'm just looking at their needs according to PFF mock fantasy draft, but wide receiver and interior defensive line, and a guy I really like coming out of the draft, he's kind of been picking up some steam, is Devontae Wyatt, the interior defensive lineman out of Georgia. I think he would be a very nice pairing with Von Miller. Being able to stop the run. The Bills, you can never go wrong with a defensive lineman.
I like it. Simon, anything else there? Need-based?
I mean, the only thing I'm seeing need-based is they did lose their starting corner, Levi Wallace, to the Steelers in free agency this offseason. And there's a guy on the board that I really like, Andrew Booth Jr. from Clemson. He's the highest guy on my board right now. But at the same time, Devontae Wyatt I mean, that guy screams Buffalo. Their defensive front is just always so nasty. And this is the guy falling in mock drafts right now that I'm seeing, and I can't believe it. There was a long while where he was going before Jordan Davis. I think he's kind of considered to be the more skilled of the two from that Georgia defensive line. So I think either of those picks would be great. And I think that's a great point by Ronan. Devontae, if you added him to this Buffalo D line, that would be pretty sick.
I like them both. I've seen Devontae Wyatt mocked a whole lot higher. Now, he's kind of trended downward a little bit, but I've seen him mocked much higher than this. So I think the Bills would be lucky to get him. I would consider Andrew Booth here because I do like Booth as well. I like Booth's presence in the secondary, but I think I'm going to go Devontae Wyatt here for the Bills. So, but I like both guys. But we're going to go Devontae Wyatt here and post him up for Buffalo. Devontae Wyatt, defensive tackle out of Georgia. And I believe a lot of those Georgia guys played all over. They played defensive end. They scooted into defensive tackle. Some of the linebackers played defensive end. They really tried to confuse the heck out of you a lot there at Georgia. So I like that pick there for the Bills. Devontae Wyatt, Ronan, thank you. Simon, thank you. Number 26, the Titans. And by the way, I want to say this while Simon's locking in his Titans pick. Those of you who are watching this on YouTube and you're like, hey, you guys aren't very prepared for some of these teams. We were supposed to have two more people that were planning to join us. And unfortunately, both of them had to back out yesterday and today. So some of us grabbed some teams that we had not prepared for. And so that's why we're having an open discussion about some of these teams. The Titans are one of those teams. I literally just handed the Titans to Simon about 4 hours ago. So Simon, I appreciate you stepping up and doing that. And I forget, Ronan, who did I hand you about 6 hours ago, man?
The Buccaneers.
Yeah, the Buccaneers. So these next two picks, these guys had literally 4 hours and 6 hours to try to decide what they wanted to do, and they probably at work and they were trying to figure it out. So, Simon, for the Titans, what you got, man?
So this actually ended up being a little easier than I thought for the Titans. Guard David Quessenberry was their starter last year. Their right tackle did he play right tackle? Okay, here you go. This is where I'm falling off. But they had two offensive linemen that were starters last year that are gone. They cut one. The other is leaving in free agency. They have a rookie who is going to be kind of expected to be in line for that right tackle position. But I think they could still use a guard. There's one more first-round guard on the draft board right now. And so it was a pretty easy pick for me. This is Kenyan Green from Texas A&M. Kenyan Green he's bigger than Zion Johnson. I think he's a little more athletic, or he was supposed to be at least a little more skilled. He was a really top-rated offensive lineman in his recruiting class. Had a poor combine, just not as good of a physical workout as he was supposed to have. And even in some of the drills, he had issues. He was false starting and not getting some drills right. So he ended up falling a little bit, but I think this is still the right range for him, the mid-20s here. Put him in Tennessee where, they're just going to ask him to run and block for Derrick Henry pretty good. So I'm going to go Kenyan Green.
I like it. And you're right. Kenyon, I really like Kenyon Green too. I don't think I would want to draft him in the top 15. I have seen a couple of mocks push him up there, but this does feel about right for him. I think you have a guy here who can be a quality starter in the league, I think, for a very long time. So I do like him coming out of school there. All right. Ronan, the team we handed you about 6 hours ago, man, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, led by Tom Brady. By the way, I am curious while Ronan's making his pick, how many of you think that Tom Brady was the reason that Bruce Arians is no longer with Tampa Bay? Simon? Yes, no, maybe?
What's the word? But the sheltered almost side of me, which is just like, no, like everything's fine, whatever. To me, it's just I took Bruce Arians at face value where he said he didn't want to give Todd Bowles a team in shambles. And then he heard Tom Brady was back and he was like, you know what? Todd Bowles can take over this now. I'm ready to go golfing all summer. But it's probably not what happened. They probably worked it out. And Brady said, I'll come back if Bruce retires. So unfortunately, I think that is what happened.
Any more opinions?
Yeah, I want to believe it. I really do. But the likelihood of Bruce Arians giving up a potential Super Bowl roster, that just, I don't know. He seemed to be doing his homework at the combine. I don't think he was doing it all for nothing. I know he's still working with the team, but there's a difference between the work put in from the head coach and from someone in the higher ups in the management.
My thought is this, and again, none of us know for sure. I think Bruce Arians might actually be the kind of guy, might be willing to actually do this for Todd Bowles. Mm-hmm. But I still think Tom Brady got something he wanted out of this when he came back. Who knows? That's my opinion, your opinion, and our opinion. Ronan, what you got for the Buccaneers, man?
You know, I'm at a bit of a toss-up. Let's see. I need to double-check on one thing.
Absolutely.
While Ronan's checking on that, Bills fans, I apologize. I did my homework. It was Roger Saffold was the guard, and David Quessenberry was the tackle that are gone. I know Bills fans hate me, so I did look. I double-checked. I found it. I knew it before. There you go.
You got him a good player. They ought to be happy, right? I mean, you know.
No, they won't be. It's fine. No one's happy.
Okay.
Yeah, and by the way, you know, if you don't like our picks and you're still listening, thank you for listening. But feel free to tell us that we're idiots. Just try to say it nicely, you know, in the comments. We appreciate it.
So for the Bucs pick, I'm gonna take George Karlaftis out of Purdue. I am honestly surprised that he's fell this far. The Bucs, their edge, they need. Let's see. They have Raheem Nunez-Roches. Let's see. William Golston. They don't have a for sure edge guy to pair with Shaquille Barrett. I think if you throw Karlaftis on the Bucs defensive line next to Vea, next to Barrett, he's gonna flourish. And I can't believe nobody's taken him so far. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome, Ronan. I don't mention it. I like Karlaftis as well. I think what happened for me was the intersection of big board and need with the teams I had. It just didn't make sense to grab him versus the other spots I had. The nexus just wasn't there, even though I really do like him. And this is where I'll interject this before we get to Jordan with the double Chiefs picks. This is where I think somebody like Karlaftis might actually have a lot more fun playing football since he's on a good roster than somebody like Aiden Hutchinson, who's heading to Detroit. You know, Hutchinson's not going to have a whole lot of help there on defense, and not a whole lot of help on offense either. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of people watching Hutchinson and everything he does. Karlaftis can just fit right in, and I think Karlaftis may have a lot more fun playing football there in Tampa Bay if that's where he goes. Jordan. Actually, I'm sorry. I still got to pick the make here for the Packers. I'm bugging Jordan. I don't even have my Packers pick made. The Packers get a second pick here. And the Packers could do a lot of things right here. I like Andrew Booth. Again, the Packers are a team I picked up about 5 hours ago as well. Simon, do you mind looking up for me and seeing what they need at defensive back? Because I do like Andrew Booth, but I'm not sure that they even need defensive back there for the Packers.
Yeah, they have pretty good defensive backs. I mean, they have Jair Alexander. They always seem to find somebody undrafted. I think King just left, though. Didn't he just sign somewhere else? He was one of their stars. But they just drafted a guy last year, day 1 or 2. I'll find him. A guy I really liked. A guy from...
We got Stokes.
One of the SC... Yeah, Stokes. Eric Stokes. They drafted him last year. He started to play more in the second half of the year. So I think they're going to have him and Alexander as their top corners. But I think, I mean, it never hurts to have like one of these versatile safeties. That's for sure. Let's see.
I'll put it this way. I like Daxton Hill and Lewis Sign at safety, but I don't love them. And so what I'm going to do is, and again, this will be a controversial pick.
And they have Amos and Savage.
Okay. Yeah. It's like, they're not, it doesn't feel like they're hurting bad enough at defensive back to grab one necessarily. I'm going to grab Nakobe Dean at linebacker. I really like Nakobe Dean. I think he does a lot of very, very physical things very well. So that's a controversial pick and not a very well-prepared pick, but whatever. We're going to pull in Nakobe Dean here at linebacker for the Green Bay Packers. I do think that's a quality fit. One thing I have noticed, a lot of NFL teams have a lot of needs at linebacker, but the reason is a lot of them just kind of dump linebacker to be the last thing they do anything with. So I like Nakobe Dean there for Green Bay. All right, Jordan, we were finally ready for you, man.
Yeah.
Number 29, Kansas City.
All right. We all know that they lost their fast receiver Tyreek Hill. So, I mean, they got to find a way to replace him, and I don't think they're ever going to find something replace him. But pretty sure he's not on the board, right? Johan Dotson.
Yep. Right.
Speedy ran a 4.43, 40. Over 1,000 receiving yards this year. He's not as fast as Tyreek, but can give you that shiftiness and speed enough to compete again. And a lot of people say he might even have the best hands in this draft. So that's my 29th pick. My 30th pick. Another player from Penn State, Arnold Ikabetai. I butchered that name really bad, so
that's okay.
Ikabetai, yeah. Good, just to have another defensive lineman to go with Frank Clark and just be there to have someone more. I think that's the biggest thing the Chiefs have missed this year was defensive line getting to the receiver or to the quarterback fast. So
I have so much to ask you about here, but I think what we're going to do, we're going to finish up the mock and we'll cut the video off, and then for anybody who can still stick around and do a second video for discussion of the mock, we'll do that. Okay, I don't want to keep anybody here longer than they have to be, and I don't want to make this video any longer than it has to be either. So I'll save my questions for that for later. But the Chiefs get Jahan Dotson from Penn State and the defensive end, whose name I will not attempt to pronounce at this moment because I don't want to butcher it anymore either. But they get a defensive end and a wide receiver, obviously both needs for Kansas City. Ronan, Cincinnati Bengals, man. What are we looking at?
They addressed the offensive line problems pretty well over this past offseason. The only offensive lineman I was going to consider was Lindenbaum, which you sniped in like the top 15. So thanks for that. So I'm going to go ahead and find Eli Applesauce's replacement, Andrew Booth Jr. out of Clemson. I think he's a good prospect. I think he can end up being their cornerback one whenever 5 years from now. Good value at the 31 spot.
That's huge.
Not going to think too far into it.
Ronan, I like it, man. No, I think a lot of us like Andrew Booth. I don't think there's any question about it. Again, I just think maybe the intersection of need and team just wasn't there earlier. But I love Andrew Booth. To me, looks like another quality starter there at defensive back, certainly for the Bengals. Simon, last pick on this mock draft, the Lions picking again. They opened up when so they had the second pick overall, Kayvon Thibodeau. Simon, wrap it up for us, man.
I'm going to go, this is just kind of a bonus pick here when you're the Lions. You get the last pick of the first round. Shot in the dark. We'll see if it happens. I could still compete for one of the top quarterbacks who I like next year if I really want to. But I'm going to throw out my own top-rated quarterback in this draft, and that's going to be Desmond Ritter from Cincinnati. I'm going to take Desmond Ritter. I'm going to let him sit behind Goff for whether it's 4 games or a season. And we'll see if he can be the next guy to lead Detroit to the promised land.
I'm not surprised. And why not? Because, again, we'll talk about this more in the second video if we do one. But, if you're the Lions, why not? It's kind of like the icing on the cake, right, for this first round.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think the video is long enough, so I'm gonna cut it off and give each of you guys a chance to tell everybody who you are and where they can find you. And then for anybody who wants to do a second video, we will do that here in a second. But thank you so much for watching. Simon, go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you if they want to find more of your stuff.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And again, thank you, Ben, for putting this together. You can find me on Twitter at Simon_Short_63. That's short with 2 T's. Find my podcast, Simon Short Podcast, on Apple and Spotify. You can find all my written words on phantomsportsofficial.com.
All right. Ronan Summers, tell everybody where they can find you and if they want to hear more of your stuff, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Ben. So you can find me on Twitter, Ronan_Summers. You can find my my writing where same place as Simon's, Phantom Sports Official. You can find my podcast, The Iron Grid, on Apple Music and Spotify. Or not Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, I apologize. But yeah, thank you.
Jordan, if everybody likes your stuff or if they like your picks, if they want to tell you how much they hate your picks, where can they find you at, man?
So my Twitter is at J_Schultz, so SCHULTZ 81. I'd also do a college football podcast called In the Flat with our very own Ben Parker. And I do have articles up on Phantom Sports, just like everybody else here. So,
all right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate the audience joining us tonight. And if you've watched the whole draft, our mock draft, we really appreciate it. We may or may not do a second one in a couple of weeks. I don't know. We'll see if we get to that. We may or may not do a discussion after that. But thank you so much for watching. Jordan, Simon, Ronan, thank you guys so much, man.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.